Hi guys, it's Kelly Latavola here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today I'm going to be using the Believe stamp set, the Tea Time, which is an older one but one of my favorites, and then the gingerbread add-ons. So this stamp set is kind of the whole purpose of the video and just showing you how you can use those smaller stamp sets to change other stamps that you own. So the Tea Time one I've had for what, like a year and a half, 2 years. So it is, you know, in the ways and means of the stamp world, a little bit older. But I'm going to completely change the way that it looks for the holidays, for Christmas, just by using the gingerbread add-on. So here I'm stamping the Believe. This is going to be my sentiment for the card. I did not put the rest of it on the front of the card. It would go on the inside, and the one I chose, there's lots of good ones in the set, but the one I chose was Believe in the Magic of Christmas. So I'm just going to use the Believe on the front because I'm going to make it part of my scene. I stamped that in red ink. I used Schoolhouse Red from Simon Says Stamp, but please feel free to use whatever you have on hand. And then I'm going to, this is going to be a one-layer card, and in order to add the accessories, now mind you, I like one layer cards. I know they're not for everybody. So I'm going to show you how to do it one layer, but you could totally do this with the dies. The Gingerbread House add-ons has matching dies. You could definitely do it with the dies and it would still be just as cute and probably not as time consuming. Just, you know, full disclosure. So in order to get the accessories on to my cupcake in one layer, I cut all of my masks first so I can use the cupcake as a template of where I want my accessories to go. And then I line up the stamps on top of the accessories, remove all of the masks, and then stamp it down. In my case, I'm using Intense Black by Simon Says Stamp because it's Copic safe, and my entire scene is going to be Copic colored. So the little, I think it's supposed to be a sugar cube actually, from the Tea Time, I am using as like a hard candy, along with the, you'll see later, the gumdrops, to just kind of like sprinkle them about my cups of coffee or cocoa and the cupcakes that are on there. So I started to put down the coffee cup, and then I realized I don't want to stamp that quite, like I need to figure out the spacing. Normally when I do a one layer scene, I'm a little bit more put together. So I kind of come up with my template, and then by the time I turn on my camera, I have a idea of where everything needs to be stamped. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know, like that you'll see that messy little template that I'm using. I did not do that this time. We had this conversation last video, struggling with my mojo a little bit. And so I just wanted to kind of sit down and play with things that I enjoyed. So the last card that I did, they're sirens. I don't know what's going on, but I hope everybody's okay. The last card that I did was more clean and simple. And then the next thing that I love is scene cards and coloring. And so in order to kind of move along my mojo and make sure that I'm still accomplishing things, I just wanted to sit down and play, which I would recommend to you as well if you are also struggling with your mojo. So when you're doing a one layer card, everything that you want to see all of goes up front, and then you work your way backwards. It can be a little bit confusing, and that's why I try to leave in as much of the scene making as I can, because no matter how much I leave in, people still have questions. And I get it. If you don't do it all the time, or if you haven't seen it done before, it can be very confusing how those things end up being one layer. So this is a much longer video. I know most of you don't have a half an hour to hang out and spend with me, and I totally get that. But if you're looking for, you know, how to color a Christmas tree with lights, or how to color a cupcake frosting, feel free to jump around so you can get what you need. If you're looking to create a one layer card and want to know how to do that, then this portion of the video is for you. So I've stamped all my candies up front because I want them to be in front of my cupcakes and my coffee cups. And then I'm going to move on to the next layer. Now, nobody is perfect, and you'll see that I do make some errors in my stamping, and then I will show you how I fix those as well. I don't believe in cutting out those mistakes. Nobody is perfect in life, let alone card making. And so I don't start over. I think everything can be fixed, and especially with something like this, by the time I made the mistakes, I was already kind of invested in the card, and I certainly wasn't going to start over again. I was also pretty lazy with my masks this time around because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't pre-cut them. So you'll see that I'm moving around the same exact mask. That's why I'm not stamping, like straight across the card. I don't have multiple masks to use. So now that I've got my coffee cup straight here, I was having a little bit of a hard time getting it on the way that it needed to go on, and so that my coffee wasn't like spilling all over the countertop. I'm going to stamp that down with, and then those, you'll see at the end, like those little candies will be right in front of the plate. But yeah, so I just, I really love one layer cards. I think that they're magical. That's just, I know it's my own personal opinion, but I think that it's so fun to create that illusion of dimension. So there, what you just saw me do was mask those and stamp the tree in the back. Here, I apologize for my head being in so much of this video. I'm going to cut off the back rim of this coffee cup. Here's where I'm making my error, by the way. It's because I'm putting this coffee cup in front of the other one, and that means, see how I'm going to stamp right over that saucer? I'm going to stamp right over the saucer, and the one in the back should be in front of this one because I stamped it first. That's my error. I wanted to put a little candy cane in this like little hot chocolate. I thought that would be super cute, but in order to do that, I do have to get a little bit creative with my masks. So I put the candy cane where I needed it to be in the cup, and then I'm going to remove the masks except for I'm going to leave the coffee cup one there while I stamp the candy cane, because I don't want the bottom portion of the candy cane to be visible. It needs to look like it's in the cup. So then I'm going to put the candy cane mask on and trim it where the cup will start. And I'm going to leave that just half of mask in place, remove the coffee cup mask once I have my stamp lined up, and then that way when I stamp the cup, it'll look like my coffee or my candy cane is inside of my cup. It's going to look a little bit kind of crazy while we're doing it, but you'll definitely see how it ends up looking at the end, as if the candy cane is inside of it. I think that's also how I made my error in stamping over the saucer, because I was concentrating so hard on the candy cane portion of it that I wasn't paying attention to the bottom of it, and you can see right there where they overlap. Now, I'm not going to start over. I am just going to roll with it. I'm going to cover it up with some coloring and some detail work. So that mask I cut apart, I can just fit right back together. And then I wanted to stamp another cupcake in the background, but I only have one coffee cup mask. And again, I told you I was being super lazy. So in order to create my other, I'm going to do the accessories first, same way that I did before. The way that I'm lining them up. But I got so lazy with the cutting of the coffee cup mask, you'll see and probably laugh, because I was kind of laughing when I was doing it. Like, this is so just not even the way you should be. This is not the way that you should be doing it, but it will work, and it got me to where I needed to be. I don't know how you guys are doing with Christmas. It's been very hectic here with the move and trying to get Christmas shopping done and still work and get our household in order and still see everybody for Christmas. It's just been a very overwhelming couple of months for me. And so here's my laziness. So I stuck my stamp to my hand, and then I'm going to stamp it down on my masking paper, because I just need the bottom portion of it to mask the saucer, so that I can put the cupcake where it needs to go. Yeah, I did that. That was a thing that happened. But it's going to work. So all is well that ends well. So yeah, just been feeling, well, I guess, okay, so you guys know that typically here on my channel, I try to keep things very real, and it's not always sunshine and rainbows. And like when we talk about story time and stuff, like this is my real life. This isn't like I'm not some made up person, or I don't make up stories to entertain you guys. Like this is my real life, and sometimes it's not all that grand. I'm very blessed. I have no complaints about my life, but sometimes I just feel very overwhelmed. And so I get overpeopled. Like I'm an extrovert and I love people and I love spending time with people. But sometimes I just, I hit my quota on the expectations that I have to meet, and then I don't have any more to give. So here I wanted to put this tree like in a little stand so it would be taller, and I did that by using the chimney from the gingerbread house add-ons, and then just masked that and then stamped the tree right on top to give it some height. Back to my overpeopling. So I am an extrovert and I love people, and I love doing things for other people and being helpful and giving back, and I think all of those things are important. But sometimes I just don't have anything left to give. I'm pouring from an empty cup. And so on Saturday, it was a very, very busy day for us. And we had Shop with a Cop in the morning, which for those of you that don't know what Shop with a Cop is, it's basically a program where families who are in need, they may be lower income families or had a death in the family, but who need some help at the holidays, are part of this Shop with the Cop program. And we take them shopping. Each child has like $125 to spend. We pick them up in the cruiser, take them to the FOP lodge, give them breakfast, then take them shopping, bring them back, do pizza and wrapping gifts and meeting Santa. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful program with a lot of people donating their time. I've done Shop with a Cop for every year I've worked for the police department. But the last couple of years, I have done the face painting. They had a face painter one year. I believe she charged them. And then the officer that I work with who runs it said something to me, don't you do face painting? And I said, yeah. And he said, would you be willing to do it at Shop with the Cop? And I was like, of course. So the last couple of years I have done the face painting there. It is unbelievably demanding. This year we had 110 kids. And my youth group girls who normally help me actually all had to work, and I can't blame them. They're 16 years old and need the money. I totally get it. I was 16 once too. And so I was on my own again, and cops are worse than parents, because cops are all there to, like, they just want to talk to other cops. And, it's times where I get to see people from other departments that I have worked at. I get to see people from, other departments where maybe they were in the academy together or had been to training together. There's all, there's this whole inter-network. And it's nice for us to get to see each other and then also do something nice for the kids. But at some point or another, and I'm not sure how it's happened, as the face painter, I've also become the babysitter of the children. And so that can be very, very difficult, because I'm trying to accomplish the face painting for the kid who's in front of me, while also telling the other kids they have to wait in line and don't push and shove and keep your hands to yourself, and things like that. Back to the card. So here, you saw me frame in the Believe. I wanted it to look like, like a sign on the wall, part of a scene. And then I filled it all in with a light, like blue-green color. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of shading. I'm not so much looking at the shading behind the items as much as I am of just making the part where it meets the countertop darker, because the items are going to be so far in front of the wall, they aren't really going to have a shadow on there. But I am adding a little bit of shadow next to the sign so that it comes off of the wall a little bit. But so, anywho, at one point there, this guy he was in another department that I worked for. I knew him, super nice guy. There was like a little, I don't know, like four-year-old in front of him. And he kept like picking up the mirror and picking up the paints and talking and kind of shoving a little bit. And, we were both like, hey buddy, if you want to get your face painted, you got to get in line. Can you please be careful touching the table? Things like this. So you're trying to get that done. And then I looked at him and I said, is this your kid? And he goes, no, the kid that is mine is the kid whose face you're painting. And I was like, well, whose kid is this? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, we all sign up. We all bring our own kid. We all have, like, the kid or the family of kids that we're responsible for. Like, who's responsible for this one? And so at some point, he just picks him up in the air, and he's like, whose child is this? Which we did end up locating his police officer, who was standing at the back of the line chatting and not really paying any attention. But so it's very demanding. And I'm always the last person to leave because everybody wants to get their face painted. And, you have them that'll wait until the very last minute. Like, I've been there, I paint faces in the morning before we go shopping, and then I paint faces when we come back. And there's still one person after I've already washed my brushes who's like, hey, could I? And I'm like, oh, buddy, you're killing me. You're just killing me. And so this year I was very firm about, like, I was going to be done at 1:30. Mind you, the whole thing starts at 8. Like, we have to meet at the station at 8. So I was very firm that I was going to be done at 1:30 because we needed to get together to go to Eric's family's house, who lives an hour away from us, and we needed to be there by 4:30. So I still had to, go home, let the dogs out, all that jazz. Last year, we didn't know any better, and Eric and I drove together in the cruiser, and so he had to wait for me, and we got done super, super late. So this year, we went in the morning and dropped off my car at the FOP Lodge, so that way he could take our child home whenever the kid was ready to go, because last year's kids just got stuck waiting on me. And then I just left from there, came home, let the dogs out, and then he came home, picked me up. So, this year, like, I was very firm, get out of there at 1:30, come home, do a couple of things around the house. I actually think I maybe finished up a card or started editing a video or something while I was waiting for him to drive home. And then, we got ready and went to his mom and dad's, which is wonderful. His family is wonderful. I finally got to meet his extended family. He has family that lives in Southern Ohio and PA, and they come in for the holidays, and it was very, very nice to be able to meet them. And so when I tell you this, I want you to understand that it's not the company. Okay? So we get there at 4:30. At about 7:45, I ask Eric, what time did you want to go? Because now, mind you, the dogs have also been cooped up all day. And he's like, probably about 8:30. So I try to wait as long as I can on my quota. Like, I try to interact and be involved with people for as long as I can. But I naturally have RBF. Like, so when I'm done interacting, I just look miserable. And it's not that I am miserable, that's not it. I've just kind of met my quota. And so when I ask the question, it's because I've met my quota. And it's not his fault. He doesn't know. Well, he does now because we talked about it. But, like, he didn't know that when I asked, that means that the quota's already been met. I'm just, back to the card, I'm just using some grays to kind of darken up that shadow underneath the picture so that it looks just a little bit more like it's away from the wall. The using the blue greens to do the shadows just wasn't really enough for me. And then do be careful when what ink you use. When you're doing like the shading on the white, if you're using ink that is not Copic safe, which the one I chose was the Simon Says stamp, it is not Copic safe. You can get a little bit of smudging on your stamping, so just be aware of that. The tree, I'm going to add shading, mostly coming down from the top, a little bit up from the bottom, just to kind of get that striation, to give the feel of some texture for the pine needles. But I'm going to concentrate most of the shading at the tops because that's where each layer would come out from. So anyway, it's totally not his fault. He didn't know that meant I was ready to go. And so eventually we end up leaving at like 8:30, and we're talking on the way home a little bit, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I've just, I've met my people quota. That's all." And so trying to explain that to him, and that being super overwhelmed and anxiety and stuff like that. And I think that like people nowadays, you see a lot about anxiety or and I think everybody has some to some degree. It just depends on what the thing is. Back to the card. So yeah, my tree is done. I'm going in with my colorless blender and creating little circles. This is going to be my lights later on when I do the detailing. So I just kind of tried to move in the same kind of direction from left to right. But really there isn't a right or a wrong way to do it as long as you can connect your strings. I would just be careful, especially on something this small, not overloading it, because then it's going to get super messy and hard to read. I'm changing up the color of the green for the holly and the candy. They are similar. I'm using some of the same colors, but not all of them. I wanted them to have a different feel. I didn't want it to be all one note. And I also wanted the candies to look a little bit brighter so that maybe they would be a little bit more, appear a little bit more transparent. So I'm fairly quiet on the way home. And then, it's just, I've always been that way where I get overwhelmed and then I just, kind of need to, I almost go into like zombie mode. That's the best way I can describe it. And that's how I was when Peanut was first born, having an infant, where you're just going through the motions. And I talked to my friend Lisa, which I've told you about before, who, was going through a hard time. And she said the same thing. She's like, you're on autopilot. And I think that there's a lot of us with all of the things that are expected of, I don't even want to just say of women, all the things that are expected of women, to have this house and like this, perfect house and adorable kids, and they're well behaved and they're doing well on their homework, and you're working full time and contributing to your household. And there's just, and I like, who puts these expectations on us? Because I'm pretty sure it's us. I'm pretty sure it's us who puts these expectations on us. That if you're a stay-at-home mom, then you don't contribute any money to your household. But if you're a working mother, then you should be at home raising your kids. And it's so difficult to find this balance and to meet all of these expectations. And mostly they're just crap, guys. Like, and even though I know that, I still fall into the same category sometimes where I just feel like I'm not meeting them. I'm not meeting those expectations. I'm not doing enough. I'm not unpacking my house fast enough, or, I'm taking too much time off work. I'm spending too much time at work and not enough time with Peanut. And it just, sometimes it feels like it's a no-win situation. And this night, was just the straw that broke the camel's back. It was what it was. And so I came home and I had myself a good cry. And this is another thing, and I don't know. I think it comes from not wanting to be a burden to other people. But like when I have my like full on ugly cry, like giving it to God because I can't carry it anymore, I try to hide it from people. I don't want witnesses to that. And so I typically tend to, like go into the bathroom and turn the water on and sit on the floor and cry. Or, like this particular night, I nearly did not make it upstairs. Like as soon as I was by myself, which was coming up the stairs to the bedroom, I like had to put my hand over my mouth to keep from like sobbing. And it's not that Eric wouldn't have, comforted me or supported me or, loved me through that. I think that's just my own hang up of not wanting anybody to witness that. And I don't think I'm alone in that. But, so when I was, before Eric and I got together, when I was married, I used to come home and cry to my dog. Like if I had a really bad day. And now mind you, these days are far and few between. This is not my everyday, okay? I'm just kind of trying to share my experience of just being overwhelmed and let you know that if you are this way, you are not alone. There's a lot of us out there who are just pushing through. And so I would come home and Molly would sit on the couch next to me and put her head on my shoulder, and then I would hug her and I would cry. And Molly was my support system. And so later on that evening, I was downstairs folding laundry, and Eric and I were sitting there folding laundry or whatever. I was still probably being relatively quiet. I have to go back to the card. So this is how I fixed the boo-boo there. I used some green to shade my red. And I know that probably sounds weird, but if you use a complementary color to shade, it tones it down. Now, you have to use the same tone, like you can't use a super, like a YG01 to shade a R29. You're not going to be able to see it. So you have to use something in the same tone range, same depth range, but it will work to make it darker. And then I'm going to use some detailing to further kind of mask that error that I had. But anywho, so we were downstairs folding laundry, and Molly comes over and sits next to me on the couch and puts her head on my shoulder, and then I just started crying. And then poor Eric is like, babe, are you crying? What's wrong? What's happening? Why are you crying? And so, like, we had a conversation about just feeling very overwhelmed with, like, I haven't had a real day off since November, the beginning of November, because of the packing and the moving and the holidays and the cleaning of the rental, and it's just been too much. And the thing that I guess scares me to death is that I have a great support system. I have a wonderful, wonderful support system. My family is amazing. They have helped me every step of the way. Eric's family has helped us, move in and get things situated. Eric is super helpful, and like I'm still feeling very overwhelmed. So I cannot even imagine how people who don't have that kind of support system, how they even feel. Because wow, just like if that's the situation that you're in, or somebody who's in that situation, or maybe you have a friend whose family is not super supportive, like please support them, because they're struggling just as much as the rest of us with much less opportunity for help. So anywho, we had a very good talk. I felt much better afterward, but just know, like, especially the holiday season can be very emotional if you have loved ones that you've lost, if you maybe have kids who aren't going to be coming home for the holidays. It can be very overwhelming, and it's totally okay to have yourself a moment where you sit down on your bathroom floor and cry, and then don't unpack and live there. Okay? Like, don't stay there. It's okay. You have your cry, give it to God, and then, find your best way to work through it, and then get up off the floor, wipe your face off, and go back to doing the things that need to be done to the best of your ability. But also, it's okay to say no. And I struggle with this, and I know a lot of people struggle with this. If you don't have it in you, if you don't have the time to do it, it's okay to tell people no and not have any leftover guilt about that. You don't have to do all of the things for everybody. You do the best you can for the people that you can do for. That's my advice. And I'm going to try to take my own advice. We'll see how it goes. So in order to just, break up a little bit, I was looking for something that would go with my red and green. I picked some yellows. I colored them the exact same way. I really just wanted to show you the color combination in case you loved it and wanted to use it. And then I'm going to do the cupcake holders and the pot that the tree is in, just kind of like a light, like a silver-ish color. So that's kind of where I'm at. I am moving along with the Christmas decorations are done now. There's more and more coming off of my plate. It's just that, that mental load that we kind of all carry, that can be a little bit trying. But like, I'm not myself, I guess. That's two negatives. That's double negative. But because, just because I guess when I have these conversations with you guys and we talk about life, I do want to be real with you about what real life is. I don't want there to be any impression whatsoever that I don't have the same struggles that everybody else does. And I oftentimes see you guys make a lot of comments about, like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do all the things that you do in a day. And there are times that I don't know how I do it. But believe me, there's plenty of times where I don't get it done, guys. I'm not perfect. I'm not some kind of rock star. I am, going on very minimal sleep and trying the best I can, just like you. So for the trees, in order to put the string of lights on, I did that with a white gel pen. I'm going to add some shine onto my cupcakes with that gel pen. And then I'm also going to draw a little bit of detail on these coffee cups, which will be the second way, and really the most important way that I'm going to mask that stamping issue that I had. I also changed the gumdrops. Instead of having black spots, I wanted them to have white, so they look like they have sugar sprinkled on top of them. And so I did that with the white gel pen as well. The little swirls for the coffee cups are just very generic little swirls. You'll see me turning my card so that I could get the correct angle for all of it, because sometimes it's just easier to keep turning it than to try and draw it any other way. But these little swirls will add some decoration to the cups, but then will also mask that overlap. So your eye catches the swirls and the shadows and doesn't pay attention so much to the fact that there is a line running through one of the other saucers. So then after that, I did go through and add a little bit of shading on top of those with the red, just because it wouldn't be all that stark white. I probably could have used a gray. I kind of wish I would have used a gray, but I didn't. I used a red. It is what it is. The last thing that I'm going to do is add some glitter, especially around the lights on the trees and to the candies and the cups, because I love all things shimmery, and honestly, it's the holidays. What isn't shimmery? So I hope that you guys are having a wonderful holiday experience. I hope that you are more on the ball than I am and have it all done and together and are not stressed out. But if you are, you are not alone. So that's it. That's the whole card. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.